Yes.
So the San Diego Padres fired Bud Black a couple of days ago.
Why did they do that?
Well, there were high
He's a good manager. He's a good dude. I enjoy talking to him.
I agree. He was one of my favorite guys to talk to before the game.
Right.
The expectations were awfully high. No team in baseball did more in the offseason and spent more than San Diego.
Right.
They thought they had a team that could not only contend for the NL West, but could contend for a World Series. They're not playing well. They're around They've been around 500 all year long.
Right.
Bud Black gets fired because Will Myers isn't healthy, because Matt Kemp isn't the player he used to be. There are a lot of reasons. But Bud Black is gone.
Bud Black never bought in, I don't think, in that this was going to work. Because I remember when the Padres were here earlier in the season, I went over and said, "Hey, Bud, you got a bunch of new guys and you got to be excited." And he goes, "Well,
pump the brakes a little bit."
Yeah. That he thought it was going to be harder for this team to become cohesive than everybody else did. And he was right, but he got fired as a result.
Yeah, and a lot of those young pitchers, who are very talented young pitchers, are not doing what they did last year, although James Shields, the free agent acquisition, is having a very nice season for them. But here's where I want to take this.
Okay.
So San Diego has expectations. Before the season started, they told us what their expectations were.
They want to make the playoffs and make a World Series run.
Bud Black was fired because he didn't meet the expectations laid down by the owner and the general manager. And it got me thinking, there's another team in the NL West.
It's always dangerous when you're thinking.
There's another team in the NL West, the Colorado Rockies. And I start thinking,
they still in the NL West?
They are. If you go to
I thought they were in the
part
PCL.
When you go to the paper and you go to the part that says NL West, if you go down about 5 teams, you'll see them right there. Okay?
My attention span isn't that long. I stop at about the Padres.
What are the expectations for the Colorado Rockies? You and I have both been covering this team for 23 years now, since its inception.
Yeah.
And I don't remember hearing, outside of every once in a while, somebody would say, we want to win the division. I don't remember in recent years anybody telling us what the expectations were. Yeah, once in a while Dick Monfort says, "Oh, we're going to win 90 games." But I want to hear about winning. I want to hear about a plan. I want to hear about what they want to do year in, year out. What are the expectations for this franchise? Do they ever lay them down? Do they ever set them down?
No. I think for the longest time in the O'Dowd era, it was trust the process and the results will come eventually. Then a couple years ago...
That's not an expectation.
No, a couple years ago, it wasn't even a couple years ago, not quite 2 years ago, Dick Monfort with a number of people from the Denver Post after the season was over gathered us together, fed us some nice sandwiches, and said that if this team can be in serious contention once every 5 years, that's about right. And so I think that's the expectation, is that if twice a decade they can make some run towards the playoffs, that's their expectation. And if the bar is set that low, then there's going to be a whole lot more years where you lose 90 plus, and finish in last, and never get poor little kids to scan all the way down to the bottom of the NL West standings, than the years when you're in the race.
It sounds to me like he was feeding you bologna sandwiches.
I like bologna.
Yeah?
I'm Polish. Bologna and onions.
He was feeding you bologna.
Yeah.
I just... It's bothersome.
Yeah, I know, because you love baseball.
Well, and I'll tell you what, if I had to pay for tickets, it would bother me even more.
I hear you.
There's still 12, 15,000 people a year who buy season tickets, and they never know what the expectations are for this team.
Well,
you know what? I think the expectations have been lowered to the point where everybody would just be happy if the weather was nice and they played 500 ball. Yeah. And it's such a contrast to what we see on the other side of town out of Dove Valley, where they go into every training camp saying, we want to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to put together a team that we think can contend for a Super Bowl title.
So I agree with you. It starts with the team. It starts with the expectation that when the Broncos were under the day-to-day guidance of Pat Bowlen, said, hey, I expect to win every game every year. And, Woody would josh him about that. But that was his expectation. I expect to win every game. And then I expect to win every game in the playoffs. So it starts with the team. But I'm not trying to get down on fans in this town, but I am.
Tell the truth, Mark.
Denver Bronco fans expect their Broncos to be a good team each and every year, and that puts pressure on the Broncos to fulfill those expectations.
But the team is fine with that, putting that out there.
Okay.
They set a standard. It's a gold standard. And they intend to fulfill that standard every year.
Okay.
Meet that standard.
So the lack of expectation with the Rockies does start with Dick Monfort and ownership of this team. But whether it's me in the media, the person buying season tickets, or the person that just goes out there on a sunny Sunday afternoon, the fans in this town have no expectation for the Rockies
and don't demand anything.
And so it's on us too. And I include me in there. I'm not pointing fingers at fans. If you don't demand excellence from your team, then what do you have to gripe about when they give you mediocrity at best?
Yeah.
Because if you do just like the sunshine and the beautiful ballpark and having dinner before a game in Lodo or a cold one after the game in Lodo, and that makes you happy, then you're not doing your job as either a commentator or a fan in making this team better.
All right, that segment brought to you by Davidson's Liquors. Fans of this show, the sports show, can get $10 off any online order of $50 or more at davidsonsdenver.com, so up to 20% on your order. You have to use the promo code SPORTSSHOW10, the number 10. Again, it's only good for online orders. They deliver it to your house if you want, or you can pick it up in the store, but you have to order at davidsonsdenver.com and use the coupon code SPORTSSHOW10 to get your $10 off.